Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to look at the Firedrake from a race called the Taurhai. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I may not be, and I do apologize if anyone knows the better pronunciation. Now, uh, before I get into the Firedrake, I'm just going to break down who these people really are. So, the Taurhai are a humanoid species from the planet Chita in the Beta Quadrant. Their civilization stretches back tens of thousands of years before the 24th century. Their primary species of the Tahari Unity, which occupies space spinward and below the Romulan Star Empire. Now, this comes from Last Unicorn Games, Lug, the way of the era, the Romulan Star Empire. Now, physically, the Tahari had enlarged craniums and beetled brows, with narrow, pointed chins and small mouths. They had dark hair, typically worn long, but the top of their heads were bald. Tahari had no eyebrows, and their eyes themselves were completely black, containing neither pupil nor iris. Tahari bodies and limbs were typically long, slender, and graceful, with skin color ranging from pale tan to dark brown. Standard Tahari dress consisted of long robes with wide sleeves, decorated with glyphs and symbols representing an individual's various achievements. Now, again, this is all from the last Unicorn Games. Now, I got all this off of D6 Holocron, and seeing that, not knowing who the species was. Now, I do have Lug, but we've never really played this. And it's still the same thing, trying to do Star Trek for my group because you have big ships, and typically we can beam other groups down to fix whatever it is. It didn't really work out very well for my group of guys. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for everyone. It's just how we were playing, it just didn't work. Uh, so I'd always pick up the books and I'd always kind of comb through some of the stuff, especially the ships. But I didn't always get into all the different races and everything else. But I wanted to give a little standing viewpoint of who this group is before we get into their ship. So, of course, it's nicely laid out by the gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, whoever had done this on D6 Holocron. So, whoever they are, just keep in mind they're the ones that are doing the wonderful work of doing all this. And when I have a couple of ships I want to get to. I will try to copy their format. So, let's take a look at what they had created here. So, the Tahari Unity Firedrake class cruiser. It's a capital scale. It's about 325 meters long, has a ship mass of 1,270 metric tons. That is a big boy. It is a size category 6, so I believe that puts it on par with a Galaxy class starship. Now, it's only 325 meters, where the Galaxy class is, some 600 and something, but you're talking about 75 meters wide, 75 meters tall. This is still a fairly good sized ship here. All right, so it does have an autopilot and is at 3D plus 1. Has a crew of 472, and it can run with a skeleton crew of 47 with a plus 10 modifier. And it can hold up to 310 passengers. I'm going to guess that we're talking about troops here. Cargo capacity is 80,000 metric tons. So the big question is this more of a warship, or is this going to be more of a transport ship with that much cargo capacity? Hard to say. Maybe it's part both. It has enough consumables for 6 years, so that tells me it's probably able to do long-term missions, which does then have a good reasoning as to why it's got so much cargo capacity. You're going to fill that up with a lot of foodstuffs and everything you're going to need for a long-term space travel. Gravitational induction drive. So this isn't a warp drive. It's not a hyperdrive. This would be more of a fold type drive. So we're talking about it can go 0.5 light years maximum jump distance. So you're going to fold space around you, and then you're going to come back out. Now, BattleTech, having done a similar drive, um, they talked about everything compressed into like a 2D version of itself, and then a one-dimensional, and then it went right back, and everybody's stomach would go queasy from doing it. So I don't know how Star Trek really wants to encompass that, but just taking from some other writer's view of what a jump drive would do, and how that would kind of mess with your perception of the universe, and then it's back to being normal. Uh, of course, we're going to have a nav computer. It has a maneuverability of 1D plus 1. The ship actually has a space speed of 9, has a hull of 4D, and a shields of 2D. Now, the interesting thing is, again, I'm going back to its jump drive here. We don't usually see different. I know it was brought up in the original series that there was a ship that actually had an ion drive, and Scotty was in amazement of it. He goes, "Boy, if we could copy that system, that would be really good." And that was in the original series, and I don't remember what episode that was, but I do remember that from the original series. Now we have a jump drive, so even in the Star Trek universe, we have multiple ways of going out in space, to travel in space. Uh, so it's always an interesting thought that you have multiple ways of traveling. Okay, so our sensor packet here, we have a passive scan out to 5 kilometers with a 1D plus 1, so that's not too bad. We have an active scan out to 12 kilometers at a plus modifier of 2D. A search out to 16 kilometers with a plus 3D to our roll, and a focus out to 500 meters with a 3D plus 2 addition to our roll. So not bad for the sensor packet. So, as a ship that could maybe be scientific ship, maybe it's warship, maybe it's a combination of both, much like the Federation with the Constitution class, it's supposed to be a multi-role vessel. It needs to be able to defend itself. It's really there for doing scientific duties, explore the galaxy and all that. And sometimes it is pressed into service to transport supplies out to another star base or whatever. So, and now we get to our weapons here. So we have 5 type Roishi heavy gravitation beams, 360 degree arc in the front, 360 degree dorsal, 360 degree interval, and 360 degree starboard, and 360 degree port. So essentially you can cover everything. Requires a crew of 1, it's capital scale, has a fire control of 1D plus 1. Fire rate of 5, so you can shoot 5 times, whether it's a standard, a continuous, a pulse, or a wide beam, and we can do 5D plus 2 damage. Pretty respectable, not all that bad. It gets scary with the Star Trek where we may not have the extra big weapons, but you're able to shoot 5 times in one round. So that to me is really, that gets to be the deadly thing. It's not like, yep, 1 shot, that's all I got. Now it's 5 shots, and what's coming after that. So, okay, we have 2 quantum torpedo launchers, 1 forward, 1 aft, but they're self-guiding. Crew of 1, fire control is 1D plus 1. We have 100 Type 2 quantum torpedoes, and it has a spread of 8. So it can shoot out 8 torpedoes at one time, and they're doing 90 damage. So that's quite a few dice to be rolling out there to see how much damage gets through. We have 2 class Delta tractor beams, 1 forward, 1 aft. Now this will be for trying to move, meteorites, asteroids, tug other vessels, whatever. Has a fire control of 1D plus 1, strength of 4D. So, I don't know how big of an asteroid that would really lead us into. Um, I know it's something that kind of popped in my head because I know that that's something that's actually been done in Star Wars, where you have your standard travel lanes, and it does kind of sound like you may have something like that in Star Trek as well. And then when you have mercenaries or um kind of bandits or whatever, what they'll do is they'll actually push an asteroid into a travel lane to try and stop traffic from going through. Your nav computer or whatever will kick you out of your warp drive in this case, or in Star Wars it'd be your hyperdrive. And here, this kind of gets a little more interesting because you have to kind of know where you're jumping to, and then you fold and you reappear. Hopefully, not inside part of an asteroid. I think that might get messy, but you get the idea. Um, with a 4D plus 2, I don't know exactly how big you'd be able to really go. And I'm sure I could come up with a chart to say this should be this or whatever. And I might even go off of scale size. So if you're getting something your own relative size for a capital, so if I was seeing something that's maybe just throwing out a ballpark figure, about 200 meters, um, maybe that would be a 10 or a 15 to roll to be able to do that. And you start going a little bit bigger than that, then you start adding more. Let's see. We have Class Alpha Tractor Beam for the shuttle bay, and it has a fire control of a +2 and a strength of 3D. Now there again, you're also talking about you're usually linking up and saying, hey, you have something that's trying to get caught into a tractor beam and brought in. So the fire control I don't think is as much because it's going to be a nice easy roll. All right, we have the crew quarters, which is one of the things that they do very well here. We have 160 Spartan crew quarters, 350 basic crew quarters. We have 90 expanded, 20 luxury, and 2 unusual. We have 15 decks on board. We have 140 escape pods, and each escape pod can hold 8 beings in each one. And this was done in mid-24th century according to Earth Reckoning. So this would fit very well for the next generation, I believe. Transporters, we have 3 personal transporter pads. Each pad is for 8 personnel. We have 3 emergency transporter pads, which can move 28 personnel at one time. We have 3 cargo pads that can move 800 kilograms at one time. Our complement of shuttles, we have 4 shuttlecraft that can be stored on board and 60 probes. Now, what they have is the Firedrake was a Romulan designation for a type of cruiser fielded by the Taurhai Unity during the 24th century. Ship Recognition Manual, Volume 5. Starships of the Romulan Star Empire, which I do not have that book. I know I don't. The Firedrake was similar in design to the larger Taurhai Star Dragon, which I did not see on here. Nope, we do have the Star Dragon. Okay, I'm sorry. It consisted of 125 meters long, command hull, and 8 25-meter segments. The ship was able to separate its command hull and segments into sub-ships. Unlike larger vessels, which was more multi-role, the Firedrake was considered a purely military vessel, and when not assigned to war fleets, it was assigned on patrol duties during the Unity's territory, or defending the Unity's territory. The Firedrake used a gravity induction drive while was capable of half a light year jumps and traveling at a speed of 6 light years per minute. So it would just do a series of jumps. Source, the Ship Recognition Manual, Volume 5, Space Dock. Okay, so, it's an interesting ship. I do not have this actually listed on my sheet. I'm trying to make sure I don't repeat ships, so something I'll have to put in here. But like with BattleTech, when they do theirs, you can jump, and then typically they have to kind of recharge their battery system or whatever. And their war vessels, they might be able to get a second jump uh, without too much of an issue, but then they're going to have to definitely recharge their battery systems. Uh, this one sounds like it can do a continuous jump. So it can jump half a light year, then another half a light year, and then so um, it's an interesting concept here on how they're doing that. And we'll get the Fire Dragon out here sometime soon. Maybe I might make that the next one because that way you can watch the two of them back to back. Seeing that I don't have it listed here, and the fact that on this one I gave you a little bit of a introduction to who the Taurhai are. So, but that's it for today. As always, thank you for stopping by. It's always wonderful having you stop by and visit. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.